Many of us have heard of Bonnie and Clyde, the criminal couple who roamed the streets of the central United States in the early 1900s. Their story captivated many people and even turned into films. However, things aren't so romantic when you realize there are real victims and real crimes being committed. Did you know that Asia has its own Bonnie and Clyde stories too? In today's case, we'll talk about exactly that, the Bonnie and Clyde of China. They're perhaps better known by their own names, Fa Ziying and Lao Rongzi. The two committed crimes from 1996 to 1999. The time range is short, but trust me when I say they claimed many lives and robbed many people. Let's start from the very beginning to get to know our Bonnie and Clyde of Asia. First on the list is the Clyde Fa Ziying. Born in Jiujiang, Jiangxi in October 1964, Fa was the youngest of 7 siblings. He was unlucky enough to miss out on the wealth his family had before his birth. He wasn't a fan of studying and dropped out of school after elementary, only to go back to pursuing education after his parents passed away. Fa was known as a rascal and a gangster, but in 1990, he married a woman named Miao and started an honest business. The two were blessed with a child, but sadly, the happy family life didn't last long due to Fa's gangster tendencies. They separated in 1994, and Fa had to pay Miao around 85,000 yuan before moving out. Lao Rongzi, on the other hand, was quite the opposite of Fa Ziying. Born in December 1974, she was the youngest of 5 siblings. Lao was smart and graduated with excellent grades in junior high. After graduating, she trained as a preschool teacher at Jiujiang Normal College and was assigned to work as a primary school Chinese teacher. She seemed like a normal woman. But things took a turn when the school was about to shut down and the teachers were allegedly about to be made to work at a gas plant. This made Lao feel depressed, as she had been working without pay. Around this time, she met Fa in 1993 at the wedding of the vice principal's daughter. She was aware of Fa's background, but got infatuated with him anyway when he gave her a ride home on his motorcycle. This was opposed by the family, as Fa was known as the bad boy. But Lao was deeply in love with him, so she left her family with Fa and went straight to Shenzhen, planning to live her life with a man she loved without her family's interference. They left together with only 6,000 yuan in 1995. Running away with your lover needs money, so Lao and Fa tried to make a living by opening a business. However, a murder occurred in the neighborhood. After the investigation, the police concluded that the couple might have something to do with it. They wanted to convict them, but there wasn't enough solid evidence to prove their guilt. Perhaps in fear of scrutiny and being caught, the pair ran away to Jiujiang. Fa's gangster behavior persisted, and in February 1996, he harpooned someone. Luckily, the victim didn't die. Knowing that Fa's gang fights would cause trouble, the couple fled again, this time to Nanchang, taking on new identities to hide from the authorities. Living in Nanchang required a sizable amount of daily expenses, so to survive, Fa and Lao conducted clever scams. Lao would pose as a sex worker or an unfaithful wife looking for a one-night stand. After leading the man to their apartment, Fa would confront them and demand hush money to keep the affair a secret. This scam worked well for the couple, targeting married men who didn't want their affairs exposed. Reports say they made around 80,000 yuan a month from their scams. They performed these scams in 6 other towns for about 5 months, keeping a low profile to avoid police detection. Plus, the men were too embarrassed to report the scam. So far, the couple's only crimes were injuring someone and scamming. There was a murder suspicion, but it wasn't proven. It seems tame, but things were about to get worse. Fa Ziying and Lao Rongzi were brazen enough to see how far they could stain their hands with sin. At the end of July 1996, Lao and Fa noticed someone they deemed wealthy. The man's name was Xiong Qiyi, the general manager of an air conditioning company. When Xiong visited a dance hall, likely a club, Lao posed as an escort and got close to him. Needless to say, Xiong was infatuated with Lao and followed her to her apartment. Unbeknownst to Xiong, Fa was hiding in the apartment, observing his every move and his expensive accessories. Suddenly, Fa ambushed Xiong, and Lao helped tie the struggling man up. They stripped him of his clothing and belongings before asking where he lived because they wanted to rob his house as well. Thinking they'd let him go, Xiong told them, but sadly, they strangled him with a wire. Fa and Lao mutilated Xiong's body, putting the remains in 4 plastic bags. The next day, the couple visited Xiong's apartment twice. First, to make sure they had the right place, and second, to cut the telephone line in case anyone inside tried to call for help. After their preparations, they entered the apartment, using the key they obtained from Xiong. Inside, they found Xiong's wife and toddler daughter sleeping soundly. Fa woke the mother and daughter, threatening them with a knife and showing them Xiong's remains to prove they were serious. Fa then left the terrified and hysterical mother and daughter with Lao while he searched the apartment for valuables. After taking what they wanted, they showed no mercy, strangling both the mother and daughter to death before burning the apartment to get rid of evidence. The remains of Xiong were not burned. The plastic bags were thrown in a community dumpster. The bags were discovered 2 days later when people noticed a foul stench. After a month of investigation, the police concluded that Fa Ziying and Lao Rongzi were behind the murders and issued a wanted notice on August 18, 1996. Running from the police, the couple settled in Wenzhou, continuing their affair scams to get by. Lao also reportedly worked at KTV as a karaoke girl and met a co-worker named Liang Shaochun. Liang always wore an Omega watch, making Lao believe she was rich. Lao informed Fa about this, and they found their new target to rob. After barging into Liang's apartment, they found only a little cash and nothing valuable except her watch and cell phone. Annoyed, they forced Liang to call Liu Suqing, her boss, who was a richer target. Terrified, Liang called Liu, saying she was sick and needed Liu to check on her. Liu arrived moments later, only to be attacked by Fa. With both women tied up, Fa took their expensive watches, phones, pagers, and wallets. He told Lao to go to the nearest bank to withdraw money from their accounts while he kept watch over them. Lao convinced the bank teller that she was a friend conducting the transactions on their behalf, as the teller was suspicious. After emptying their accounts, Lao called Fa, signaling him to kill the women to eliminate any witnesses. The killer couple then escaped by bus. A few hours later, Liu's phone rang. It was her boyfriend, Li. Lao answered, not realizing who he was, and told him that Liu was on vacation with her boyfriend. Suspicious, Li decided to check on Liu the next day at her apartment. When she didn't answer the door after he called and knocked several times, he grew more concerned. The following day, still worried about Liu, Li decided to ask Liang, who worked under Liu. The situation became even more alarming when Liang didn't answer the door either. Li used a neighbor's window to climb up to Liang's balcony. There he saw the bodies of the 2 women and quickly informed the police. The police investigation confirmed that the fingerprints found on the bodies belonged to Fa Ziying, but they had no clue where he had gone. This was becoming a repetitive cycle: scamming, robbing, murdering, finding bodies, and escaping. So far, with 5 people dead at their hands, would this endless cycle ever end? Well, it eventually did. Let's get into the last victims and their capture. It was July 15, 1999 in Hefei City. Lao was working as a bar girl when she noticed Yin Jinhua, a manager at an electronics company. Lao thought Yin was rich, seeing how he always offered free drinks and gave money to his friends in need. Lao told Fa about this, and together they formed a plan to rob Yin for 300,000 yuan. On July 22nd, Lao lured Yin into her and Fa's apartment. Immediately, Fa ambushed him with a knife, threatening him and forcing him into a dog cage. Despite being in danger, Yin refused to cooperate and kept taunting them, even when Fa said he had killed people. Angered by his defiance, Lao asked Fa to murder someone in front of Yin to prove their point. Lao first picked the landlord of the apartment as the victim, but luckily for him, he didn't answer Lao's call. The unfortunate one was a repairman named Lu Zhongming, who was called to the apartment thinking he was needed. When he arrived, he was greeted by 20 stabs in the back from Fa. Fa then chopped off Lu's head with an axe and presented the decapitated head to Yin. Of course, Yin was terrified. Only then did Yin comply with their demands. They made him write a letter to his wife, asking for the ransom money and stating that he'd be killed for a penny less. They then called Yin's wife, made him read the letter, and told her to meet Fa at the Changjiang Hotel in Shushan District. The time limit was 15 minutes, but the problem was that Yin's house was an hour away from Shushan District. Due to this, the deadline was postponed to the next day, with Fa demanding the money be handed over in the morning at Yin's house. Taking this opportunity and with a suggestion from an acquaintance, Yin's wife contacted the police. The police were made aware of the situation, and they had seen too many similar cases to not know who they were dealing with. It was their chance to capture the wanted man they had been looking for. The next day, at approximately 8:45 a.m., Fa arrived at the house and cut the landline to prevent Yin's wife from calling for help. He then behaved erratically, repeatedly boasting about how he had killed before when Yin's wife was taking too long to give him the money. Luckily, Yin's wife stalled long enough to signal the police through her acquaintance. In the meantime, she convinced Fa to wait inside the house, saying she needed to collect additional funds from others. As soon as she left, the police raided the house with 3 riot teams, snipers, and ground officers. After 3 hours of unsuccessful negotiation, the police threw tear gas into the flat. Fa tried to escape his hiding spot and fired shots at the police, but he was apprehended after being shot in the thigh and having a rifle pointed at his chest. Back at the apartment, Lao noticed that Fa hadn't returned from his mission to collect the ransom. She remembered Fa's instructions to kill Yin and escape if he didn't come back by 12:30 p.m. So she did just that and fled the apartment. Yin's body was later found by neighbors who started smelling foul odors from the apartment. A note was also found, seemingly written by Lao for Fa, stating that she'd wait for him at home. During the interrogation, Fa was nonchalant, uncaring, and seemed proud. He was not cooperative either, treating it like a game, making up false sob stories and shrugging off how he killed the victims. When asked about Lao Rongzi's whereabouts, Fa refused to give her location. He repeatedly told the police that he worked alone, but when confronted with evidence, he couldn't deny it. First, he said he told Lao to flee, then changed his story to him setting up a ticking time murder rope around Yin's neck to suffocate him on time. At his own trial, Fa once again changed his narrative. He told the court that he robbed wealthy people to give the money to the poor like Robin Hood. The court brushed off these claims, with proof that some of his victims didn't even have much to rob, and he had also killed a child. With this settled, Fa was sentenced to death by firing squad. He was executed on December 28, 1999. So, what about Lao Rongzi? To put it simply, she had been on the run for 20 years. She moved throughout China, from city to city, never staying in one place for too long to avoid suspicion. To support herself, she engaged in prostitution and worked as a waitress at bars and clubs. She also kept changing her identity, but nobody knows exactly how she managed to get through identification. Perhaps by pickpocketing wallets. The 20-year-long manhunt ended in 2019. At the time, she had a boyfriend who owned a watch dealer shop in Dongbei Caitang Plaza. One day, this boyfriend asked Lao to watch his shop because he couldn't be there. Lao agreed, but out of boredom, strolled around the mall. And unbeknownst to her, the mall was filled with AI technical CCTV, which can identify faces. Reports suggest that she might have undergone plastic surgery to hide her identity, but the CCTV still identified her. There was a 97.30% match between her younger face and her now 47-year-old face. This was a breakthrough for the police, and they immediately sought out the woman, who was going by the name Xue Li. In police custody, Lao was tense and tried her best to avoid questions. She persistently denied being Lao Rongzi, claiming she had no idea about the CCTV footage or anything else. However, after continuous questioning, Lao finally gave up and revealed her real identity. Bonnie, who had lost her Clyde, was the woman the police had been looking for over 20 years. In court, Lao acknowledged her crimes, but with some avoidance. She claimed she was young and a victim of Fa Ziying's manipulation and abuse. Lao stated that she had been assaulted to the point of pregnancy multiple times by Fa and had to abort the babies. According to Lao, her screams were louder than those of their victims during the years she spent with Fa. But still, many people questioned Lao's statement. She had plenty of opportunities to run away, but she never did. She also denied killing Yin, although the autopsy revealed that he was killed after Fa was caught. Lao was the only one who could have done it. Her family, who were present in court, also couldn't believe that their younger sister could commit such heinous acts and thought she must have been manipulated. Despite this, she was sentenced to death in early September 2021 by the Nanchang Intermediate People's Court. She appealed her sentence but failed, and the sentence was upheld. By the order of the Supreme People's Court, Lao Rongzi was executed by lethal injection in mid-December 2023. That was the end of the story of Asia's Bonnie and Clyde. It is known that a total of 7 people were killed and approximately over 100,000 yuan were stolen by the couple between 1996 and 1999, but we never know more people could have been sacrificed. Each of these victims had their own stories, dreams, and families, all cut short by the couple's ruthless actions. As we look back on this chilling case, our hearts go out to the families and loved ones of the victims. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.